John Cena was a phony all along. He always knew it, and it took the fans 15, 20 years to figure it out. That all he cared about is coming out with new merchandise every month. And he said the price was such where the parents who he claimed he raised their kids had to work double shifts in order to pay for the merchandise. I'm trying to wrap my brain around all this. I really liked Randy's promo in general. I'm not sure if this is going to hurt merch sales going forward for baby faces. Parents are going to be like, I'm working double shifts in order to, according to Randy Orton, in order to buy all this tacky merchandise for you. Maybe we will just, not spend that kind of money. Who knows where the economy's going? So I thought that was an interesting approach to take, kind of daring. Likely it'll have no effect on parents giving into their kids to buy the merchandise, but maybe. But I think the more serious issue is it's going to be kind of like Randy was cheered and Cena was booed, which was in and of itself refreshing. Like to see a WWE crowd treating the designated within the storyline babyface with 100% cheers and the designated heel in the storyline with 100% boos, which is what it seemed like tonight. No, let's go Cena sucks. It was just Cena sucks. But I'm kind of intrigued with this like framing that Cena didn't decide along the way that the fans were bad and booed him, but rather all along Cena was a phony. I saw Jason Paul over at ProWrestling.net in his report, said it's going to, if this resonates, it's going to be harder for Cena to turn back babyface if he wants to do that before he retires. So anyway, those are a few talking points out of Randy's promo hyping Backlash, which is now just 8 days away. Tej, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, sorry, my Wi-Fi decided to have a little heart attack, but we should be right back in business now. Randy's promo felt like a few solid little digs at TKO and the way they've been doing business recently, which, Wade, I don't know if you've seen that clip circulating on the internet recently about Randy talking to fans who tell him they spent $30K to come to a pay-per-view, and the look on his face is just like, Jesus Christ, what are we doing here? He's very cavalier about, like, you guys wasted your money, man. But, I love this program a lot more than I thought I would. I thought it would feel like a rehash, especially, when I joined PWTorch in 2020, where John Cena versus Randy Orton is not a feud I expected to ever be covering. But
yes. Yeah.
They've essentially leaned into the fact of these two kind of legends of the game, one that's very much at peace with his legacy and one who is completely conflicted over his legacy. And it lends all of Randy's promos a level of, kind of authenticity and reality that's really, really ground the program. I know there was a lot of worries, at least on the internet, that the booking would feel weak or contrived because of Randy Orton's own past as a heel. But, they very much said Cena has been, artificial. He's been phony. Any sense of love he's had for the game has been lost and buried under the years of kind of being the top guy and cultivating this image and doing what he's had to do in order to, lead the company. And while that could be seen as kayfabe breaking or a cheapening of Cena's character or Cena's legacy, I think that they've saved themselves by Cena essentially lashing out at the fans and that being the impetus for his heel turn at the very beginning. He said, like, I did everything that I had to do and you guys turned against me. And that's why I think that it won't make it harder for him to turn babyface. If anything, it provides the fuel for him to eventually kind of reconcile with the fans and say, I'm sorry. I know you guys love me deep down. I love you deep down. I want to end my career, being adored by the fans. My legacy is what it is. That level of like self-acceptance and acceptance of his place in the WWE canon, I think that's going to be the secret sauce that wraps up this retirement tour. I think this is a great first place to get there.
So Cena's going to need Randy Orton approving of him to get fans to cheer him again, do you think?
I don't know about that, but I do think Randy kind of represents the ghosts of Cena's past in terms of, they've had a career rivalry that, to get a little bit here, the fan response to Cena versus Orton over the years hasn't exactly been stellar because it felt like trying to manufacture a decade-long kind of rivalry that never really felt like it was hitting that next level. Mm-hmm. So it feels like there's enough juice there that you could really play into this quick little feud, setting up Cena's overall arc for the rest of the year. And, the mark in me loves that we get Cena versus Orton one last time. It's a feud that I grew up on, and I get to see it now as a grown man covering wrestling.
So I thought Orton's delivery was great. I think that he is in a comfort zone right now. You talked about him being at peace with his legacy. we do have to be a little selective. Orton can go, hey, he had tacky merchandise. Cena can come back and go, let's list the things that you did, handcuffing Triple H to the ropes and threatening Stephanie and, arson. And we could list so many things. It's like tacky merchandise to pad your pocketbooks isn't nearly as bad as what Orton has been through, but it is part of being a pro wrestling fan. We have to just sort of pick and choose what is relevant to canon in the moment. So with that little caveat aside, little details, Orton really had the crowd in the palm of his hand. And I think he is going to get, obviously in St. Louis, just like cheered. And we're going to get that. I mean, Orton's going to get a better reaction than Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes did. A more unified backing, not just because of the hometown, but Randy Orton didn't spend a couple of weeks hemming and hawing over whether he was going to accept Rock's offer to sell out. Randy's a regular guy. He's not this ostentatious, suit wearing, superhero outfit wearing guy that wore people out in AEW. Cody's, I still think, immensely likable and marketable and all that. But I think the nostalgia for Cena and the Rock storyline caused a little hitch that needs a little recovery. And I think Cody being gone for a little while is probably good. But there's a cool factor about Orton. And then also Orton's getting cheered for a lot of reasons, but one of them is Cena doesn't get the nostalgia bump like Cena gets over Cody because they're the same nostalgia. And yes, this was a match we saw a lot of, but it's been long enough. It does feel kind of fun to see it go around again, and it's fresh with the roles reversed. So anyway, any additional thoughts on that or anything that I had to say about Orton there?
I think as well, it is really, really interesting to see Orton's current babyface turn, because for a lot of his early career and really a lot of his career up until this kind of late stage elder statesman status that he's kind of settled into, he was seen as someone who never really felt genuine as a babyface. Mm-hmm. But since I think originally for me, this kind of arc began with RK Bro and then eventually into a singles competitor in 2023. And upon his return from injury, fans have begun to accept Randy Orton as a legend himself, and he's felt so much more comfortable both as a wrestler and on the mic because it feels like he's just speaking as himself, as Randall Keith Orton, just a regular dude that's been a wrestler for 20 years and has just had a lot of fun doing it. It does play into his real life. We've heard the insane stories of Randy Orton as a young man, and to see him kind of mellow out into a family man in real life has played into that. So it's crazy how much both of their real life stories are tying into this promo. You're seeing Randy Orton, the man who has felt comfortable with his lot in life. He said, I've never wanted to do anything besides WWE. I've never had any level of quote unquote extra ambition. I'm happy. I've got my wife, my kids. Cena has this multi-hyphenate entertainer. He's an actor. He's been a musician. He's a worldwide brand, one of the most famous people on planet Earth. And you can sense that kind of inner turmoil with him. And, even kind of breaking away from the world of wrestling, there's been these controversies about, when he had to apologize to China for calling Taiwan a country and just certain things like that. There's been this tug of war between Cena the person and Cena the brand, Cena the actor, that I think you're seeing touches of in this kind of last heel run. It feels like we've lost any semblance of an authentic John Cena the person, and that plays into what this villain act is. None of it feels real, and it's sad to see in the best way possible.
What's the main tweak or overhaul or adjustment you would have made to the Cena heel turn since Elimination Chamber to get them and land them in a good place? Don't have to take a step back in any way, but also protect whatever needs protecting as you're laying out.
I think consistency, quite honestly. I think the Cena heel turn was hurt, especially on the road to WrestleMania with Cena's limited appearances, and it felt like Cody, and in this case, Randy, just kind of cutting promos to nobody. And, there's only so many ways you can call a man fake, and only so many times Cena can scowl and do a you people style promo before you really kind of got to dig into something else. I think that Cody versus Cena fell flat a little bit because we just weren't really sure what to expect from heel Cena in the ring. And, whether it was in character or not, whether it was intentional or not, the end product just was a little bit deflating, which is not what you want for a WrestleMania main event. And, you know, it felt like we weren't walking into that match with a fully fledged character. And I'm still wrapping my head around what Cena's character is supposed to be and what his endgame is. I think a few months post heel turn, we should have gotten there by now.
And I think what kind of hurt too is fans were kind of in this place in what you're saying, waiting to feel a certain way based on what they were seeing and hearing and the evidence in front of them. And what they got was this waiting game of Cena to explain, and he still hasn't. When did you turn on the fans? Was it earlier this year? Was there an incident in the past during your full-time career? Like, it's not really believable that he hated the fans all along. But if that's the case, he needs to make that clear too, that he could have said from the very beginning, I just rode you guys for merch money. I made those appearances, all my charity appearances, and I was being phony. I know I did some good, but in the end, you know, but we didn't get that. So fans didn't really know, like, at what point did this, for this version of Cena to ring true, we needed more information. And then they also didn't address The Rock. Did you sell out to him? People assumed he did. I didn't assume he did. I thought he was just standing in the ring. I didn't know either way, but I thought he's just standing in the ring when Cody turned him down. And he goes, well, I'll take this chance to beat up Cody, and Rock, you seem to approve of it. But I think most fans were kind of waiting around for an explanation they didn't get. So they're just, and then it's just sort of Cena's goofy disposition, his, you know, Lego head, as Orton put it, but his square jaw, his cartoonish facial expressions. That works when you're playing to kids and you're playing this PG-13 sort of superhero. But when you try to play a heel, it stands out a little bit. Like, is this a genuine performance? I could argue it's as genuine as he can get. I don't think he's trying not to be genuine. I don't think he's taking it lightly. I think he could have been sort of come across as sort of I'm doing this just for fun. You know, we're just play along. But he didn't do that. I think he's genuinely trying. It's just his facial expressions are so, you know, exaggerated.
He's an animated guy. Yeah.
Yeah, or an anime guy. I don't know. He has there's
animated.
An
animated guy. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He has features that are kind of hard to take seriously. And so there's a lot of things working against. I still think there's a lot that has been done well, and I think there's pieces to this Cena journey and that we've been on that's fine. I'm not sure that more Cena appearances wouldn't have come with some negatives without some more layering of the storyline. There's something about him seeming like a big star and being absent. He's going to be on next Friday. So Orton got his say this week. So to me, I don't know that the frequency of Cena appearing in and of itself solves a problem unless he has things to talk about. And they should have just covered that Rock base earlier. And they didn't. It seemed and it seemed like Randy today alluded to the idea that Cena is, what was his line about being subject to the puppet master?
Yeah. He mentioned the phrase "sell your soul" concretely.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was at the very least, it proves that, you know, Rock's involvement is not a dropped plot thread.
Randy said something that he wasn't supposed to.
Either that, but you know what? I'm going to give WWE the benefit of the doubt. You know, we saw the trailer for WWE Unreal. We saw that long table of writers' rooms. Randy doesn't seem like the kind of person that will go off script for something like that. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that was intentional for now.
Yeah.
And it feels like there is going to be at least some effort to tie that back into the narrative. And the reason I say that frequency is the number one thing that would have helped is it would have at least given us a consistent base and gotten some of these answers, because we're 3 months heel turn at this point, and it feels like we have just the barest essentials of what Cena is supposed to be and what he's doing. Given that he plans on retiring at the end of the calendar year, it feels like we're just running out of runway to really achieve anything substantial of a long-term arc. And that's where I think this is really, really fallen flat with people. If we knew we had till the end of 2026, I'd almost wouldn't have a problem. The Rock hasn't shown back up. I say we've got time. We can tease this out. Let it have a little bit more faith in them, a little bit more. But the fact that we've got 7 months at this point until Cena's gone forever, assuming that's not a worked comment,
right? Yeah,
my hype is getting muted because it feels like this is just as good as we're gonna get.
One of Orton's lines, I found it, is Cena is the shiny new toy of the ultimate puppet master. He did not say it was a Rock. Maybe that was meant to refer to something else, but it implied Rock. And then he said that Cena has been selling his soul for 20 years, which could be you're not selling your soul to The Rock. because Rock made an offer to Cody Rhodes for things that Cena already has. So, I mean, it makes no storyline sense for Cena to sell the soul to get famous and have a part-time schedule. He has both of those things already, and he has no family to spend more time with. You know, in the sense that Rock tried to sell Cena on, or Cody on. So it makes zero sense. It never did to me that Cena would sell the soul of The Rock. I don't think there's any storyline support for that or any indications beyond the puppet master sign. And I think Orton's quote about selling soul could have been his way of saying, again, I don't know, but you didn't have to sell your soul to The Rock. You've been selling it for 20 years. You've always been a sellout.
Yeah.
And
that's the biggest plot hole in this story for now, is there's no real explained advantage to Cena allying with The Rock beyond apparently Travis Scott in kayfabe being stronger than Cody Rhodes for a few brief seconds.
Yes.
Which, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's pause and formally introduce ourselves in the show, and then we've got some callers lined up and chat room comments that I haven't gotten to yet. We'll also check the mailbag. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Friday, May 2nd, 2025, and I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, the editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter. Latest paper copy right there from this week being mailed out to people. Still doing the paper copy, but you can get a PDF online too of the newsletter. It often features exclusive columns from Greg Parks and Sean Radican and Alan Cunahan and Rich Fan and me and my cover story and pay-per-view roundtable reviews, a lot of VIP exclusive content, along with just catching you up in one place on the major TV shows and pay-per-views for the week, along with news and some other stuff. So that comes with a VIP membership, and we encourage you to be a VIP member. And to become a VIP member, you have to go to pwtorch.com/GoVIP, unlock 35 plus years of archives of 20 plus years of podcasts, hundreds of retro radio shows from the 90s, an ad-free website, back issues going back to the late 1980s when I started doing this thing when I was in high school, and new content every day, including yesterday's three, maybe almost 4-hour episode of The Fix with Todd Martin, some of the smartest analysis and biggest, the most historical perspective. I mean, Todd just puts his heart and soul into the mailbag every week, the Fix mailbag. People sending questions. He does research. He puts thought into it. I mean, I don't know what everyone else is wasting their time doing when it comes to listening to frivolous podcasts with bombastic partisans and fanboys. But if you want to take pride in how you spend your time listening to podcasts, I'll give a hard sell to The Fix with Todd Martin. A rundown of the week's major TV shows and news stories, and a mailbag that, I mean, you're just going to walk around feeling like if you walk in a building of 18,000 fans, you're going to walk around going, I know more than anybody here. And it's because you're a VIP member. And one of the reasons is not just our great archives and other features, but The Fix every week. You're just going to feel smarter. I mean, I feel like sometimes I don't push hard enough how next level I think some of our content is to the free stuff out there. So if you enjoy what we do here, you're missing out on our, frankly, no offense to our free shows, but half of our top tier stuff is not on the free menu. And I think you'll find it not redundant, but a very good pairing with the stuff that we offer for free. So I don't sound like a guilt trip. I like, because it's not a guilt trip. It's like, but you really, whatever you're spending your time on, if you have a budget to get premium service, I think you'll find you'll be prioritizing Torch VIP content over the stuff that you're listening to these days. And I think our VIP members will back me up on those claims. All right, so that's out of the way. And we will now talk about what we've got to talk about tonight, which is SmackDown. And we are welcoming chat room comments. As I said, email. The email, if you want to email us during the show, is wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. If you can't watch us live, you can email us while you're watching Raw, Dynamite, or SmackDown. Those are the shows that we do post shows on that I host. And then you can listen to the podcast later or watch us on YouTube later and see if your email made the show. And also you can be a video caller, and we got a line of people waiting to join the show. To get a link to be a video or audio caller, you have to be a VIP member and go to my TV report at pwtorchvip.com or on Patreon. If you're a Patreon supporter, you can find the link there. We will continue talking about SmackDown with callers, with chat room interaction, with my co-host, PW Torch's own Tej Narayanan. Tej, welcome to the show.
Hello, Wade. Always good to be here. How you guys doing? If you guys don't know me, my name is Tej Narayanan. I write a column on PWTorch.com called Smackdown Feud Tracker, where we break down all active feuds currently going on the Friday Night Blue brand of WWE. We do a little bit of fantasy booking, some wrestling analysis. We have a great time. You can check us out weekly at PWTorch.com, and I'm very, very excited to be making an appearance here today.
Excellent. We got Sean joining us momentarily as a video caller, but he did in the chat say, yeah, the fix is great. And Kevin Tom says the fix is my recouped favorite. And Goodfella says paper copy is gangsta. Keep up the good work. And Derek Mitchell says, wait, please remind folks to hit the like button there. So yeah, hit the like button, whatever you're, whether you're watching us live or on demand. Please hit the like button if you enjoy our show. It helps the algorithm, helps us grow. If you think we're doing good work and you want other people to see it, you can do your part to help amplify us. And also, while you're at it, please comment below. Just whatever we say on the show that might be something you want to respond to, you can start a conversation in the comment area under the screen as you're watching us on YouTube. Most of you listen to us on the podcast side of things. We've been on the podcast side of things we've been doing podcasts since podcasting was a word over 20 years ago. We called them audio shows because the iPod wasn't out yet and word podcast wasn't invented, but we're figuring out ways to upload audio onto our server and offer it to our VIP members going back 22 years now. But that said, if you're listening to us on the podcast side of things, please also give us a 5-star rating in whatever app you're listening to us in, Apple, Spotify, or wherever. That helps also. Back to the YouTube side of things, subscribe. You can only do it once, but I said it 3 times because I want you to do it. And sometimes you got to repeat yourself. So please subscribe. We want to get our subscription numbers up too, and that also allows you to set an alarm to notify you when we go live in case you want a reminder when we go live. Not just my shows, but any of our YouTube shows here on the PWTorch channel. Speaking of which, one other note, and then we're going to get back to SmackDown. Earlier this week, Frank Pettiani hosted a new Pro Wrestling Then and Now, looking back at ECW's Hostile City Showdown 1995, and the aforementioned Todd Martin was his guest for nearly 2 hours reviewing that special ECW event. So you get a free sample of Todd Martin talking history and his signature style of analysis. That was a big era for him, and it comes through in that show.
Absolutely phenomenal, you guys. It's genuinely incredible. If anyone's ever watched me and thought, hey, this guy seems halfway intelligent, I've listened to a lot of Todd Martin. His analysis is absolutely top notch. 10 out of 10. All
right. Todd's going to be in a good mood next week unless I do something in the next 6 days to undo it. We record the fix on Thursdays. All right. I don't know. Maybe he's not in a good mood. Maybe he wants more of this. We could praise him more. Chat room. Maybe the chat room needs to deliver some more.
We got a lot of ammunition, Todd. If you want your ego to ascend to dangerous levels, we got your back. Chat's got your back.
All right, so Standard Deviation says, the fix offers the smartest content in the industry, and the submitted questions are the most thoughtful questions I can find about wrestling anywhere. So, yeah, there you go. And a nice comment from Cavante Smalls. Love Frank's Then and Now shows. Great chatting with him about aviation and wrestling. I love his mid-90s takes. The Pro Wrestling Then and Now shows are free on YouTube, and they stream live, and then they go on the VIP podcast feed. And if you go VIP, you can gain access to all of the Then and Now shows that he's done. Because when you're a full VIP member, you can customize your RSS feed on Apple Podcasts or whatever iOS or Android app you use. And or you can find them on demand on our website too. It's very user-friendly. And just binge Frank's shows, looking back at going back to the 1980s Saturday Night's main events even. All right. SmackDown. John Cena, Randy Orton. Got a chat comment here. Fan Bless said, I've been wanting to comment on the Cena thing to Wade. Cena is rich, but not Rock rich. Rock can get a movie made. It's just a phone call. Cena isn't on that level. That's why he might sell out. Well, then tell that story.
Sure.
Then tell that story. I mean, technically, yes. But I mean, are we really I don't want to
does the dollars and cents really like mean so much when they're both at that high of a level? Like they both got tens of millions in the bank account. I get the appeal, Fan Blast, but I feel like that's an arc that's really kind of reaching unless it's been touched on in the world of wrestling, which it hasn't.
And I'm not. I want to be careful not to just push back on Fan Blast because he's pushing back on my framing of this. I want to be fair, but I don't think the average WWE fan is going to go, well, Rock is 6 times or 20 times richer than John Cena because Cena only has $1 billion and Rock has $70 billion, whatever. Like, they're both rich and famous, getting movie deals and all that. And the idea that John Cena would sell his soul in his retirement, on his retirement tour, and reveal that he has been thinking the fans are suckers and they're the reason he didn't even have kids and they're awful people and he had to fake it for 20. The idea that he would do that to just be even, like, he doesn't have any room on his schedule as it is. He's overseas half this WrestleMania season filming movies. I think that's a you have to kind of talk yourself into thinking that would be a reason Cena would sell it. So with Cody, it's like you get to be home with your family more. You know, that's a temptation. You aspire to be in movies. Your body's breaking down. Like, Cena's retiring. Rock is giving Cody an offer to fast track to not have to wrestle anymore, not have the schedule, and be even more famous and get to do the acting. So I still think there's a huge difference. Standard Deviation points out Cena could double down on the 10 years ago. I was wrong to criticize Rock for leaving WWE, but now I understand. Actually, you'd have to go back about almost 25 years, I think, or 20 some years. At least the thing with Cena, and I defend Cena. I criticize Cena for being a hypocrite, but I also defend him because it's not black and white. Cena didn't leave WWE as he was reaching his peak. He gave a full career to WWE before becoming part-time and retiring. So in a way, today's Cena in real life, not canon, a storyline, could look back at young Cena and go, I did you proud. I put in 20 years, took WWE to new heights, or at least coincided with WWE corporate moving themselves to new heights. And then I retired. I didn't do what Rock did and just retire in my prime in my 30s. So, but you could incorporate that into a story though. Go ahead. Yep.
I do think I understand what Standard Deviation is referring to. I think it was during the Twice in a Lifetime feud.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there was a lot of kind of out of kayfabe or what seemed like shoot comments for Cena.
Oh, they were.
Like, yeah, you may have retired, but you could have come back, did a people's elbow. You could have added to the product, but you didn't. And then I think in interviews he said recently, it was short-sighted of me. I understand why it was so hard for Rock to come back because the product moves further forward without you, and you don't want to be what's dragging it back. You don't want to be what's interrupting things. So there is a little bit of meat on the bone there. The concept of, oh yeah, they are a lot more similar than they ever realized, and that was part of the allure for Cena to ally with him. But you know, I like that idea, Standard Deviation. I do think that could be a really, really unique angle to kind of get Cena and The Rock on the same page if they ever do manage to get the both of them in a ring at the same time for the rest of this year. The comments were made 10 years ago, but they were originally made. And I remember writing about it and talking about it 20 years ago, or whenever the first time Cena was being critical of Rock, going, I would never do that. I will never do that. And I was like, John, wait till you get the movie offers, and let's actually, because it was sort of laughable that Cena would become the level of star he has become. Credit to him. I mean, you hear his voice on commercials constantly. He's in all these TV series, prestige TV series and movies, and getting critical acclaim for them. He's naked in the Oscars. Who else could have predicted that? Nobody. And so he's had a great career. But it was laughable that Cena would even have movie offers to turn down. Like it's sort of like, I mean, we could all say I would never accept an offer to start for the Dallas Cowboys because I could never work for Jerry Jones. Well, you're not going to get an offer to quarterback for the Cowboys, so it's easy to say that. And that was my point back then. The thing is that Cena put in his time and all that. I will say this. Let's not buy the BS that John Cena says when he goes, oh, I was wrong about Rock. When Rock's the most powerful person in Hollywood and Cena wants to get a leg up in Hollywood, so he's going to say whatever politically, as with Taiwan and China, helps his movie career. When public figures say something, it doesn't mean they are or aren't genuine. You have to put it through the filter of what's the context? Is this self-serving, or is he actually truly saying what he feels? And so I just, with any public figure, especially Cena saying, oh, I was wrong, and I should have seen things differently, I put it through a filter of skepticism. I don't take it at face value. That's the definition of being a mark, is if you buy the con even outside the canon of the TV show. And there's a lot of that going on these days and always has been in the wrestling business. And that's one of the Torch specialties over the decades. We try to poke holes in the BS that gets it's the evolution of kayfabe in the internet era. You never know if people are working or shooting even outside the canon of the TV show. And even if people are saying this is a shoot, not a work, are you sure?
Yes.
If you call a show unscripted, then you can script things there, and it's real, and they view it in a different lens. It's all just another tool to tell a story.
Exactly. Paul Levesque said it on the Andrew Schultz podcast a couple weeks back before WrestleMania. He says there's the main fans who are at our arenas, and they're he doesn't say casual, but they're kind of they're watching the product.
That's the implied word.
Yeah, but there's this second layer fan, and they're the ones who are one click away from trying to find out what's real, what's not. And he's admitting on this podcast there's a second layer to WWE's work now. They're working you outside of the opening and closing credits of the TV show in canon, and so something can have a grain of reality to it, and then it gets exaggerated. Right now, we're running our retro podcast about the whole Edge and Matt Hardy and Lita thing, and that was one of the instances where something that was real, then Matt Hardy started marketing an embellished version of it to turn it into a TV storyline. That's not the only time that's been done. The famous Brian Pillman situation that got him out of his WCW contract. I mean, the Bruce Mitchell wrote a column decades ago called The New Work, and this is pre-internet, pre-social media. This is not a new thing. That's one of the great things about reading the back issues of the Torch newsletter in the 90s is you can see the evolution of things and how the setting is different, the technology is different, but the con is the same. And it
Always the same.
And I mean, I started covering this in the 80s, and there was a whole version of the con back then too. It's the technology changes, but the con doesn't. And the new one is and that's why I'm skeptical. We're on a cyber here, but that's why I'm skeptical of Paul Levesque, saying kayfabe, or I'm sorry, saying a babyface and heel and in videos on the air and in this whole behind the scenes reality series. I think he's trying to curry favor and kiss ass with that second layered fan. He did it with NXT, with the media calls and currying favor with the wrestling media. I don't think it was 100% disingenuous, but it was transparently a marketing effort to make him the babyface amongst the ardent fans, as he coined the term. And so there's a new version of that going on. Oh, Paul Levesque's the most honest promoter ever, the most honest booker ever, because he's using insider words. And that makes me feel special because he's talking to me like he's my buddy. It's all a con. It's all part of the work. And it's a strategy. And it's fine to do it. I don't think it makes him a bad person, but be smart enough to see it for what it is. It doesn't mean it has to ruin your day or make you not enjoy WWE, but don't think he's really like opening everything up. He's selecting what he's going to open up to you. That's always been the case when wrestlers open up. When they write books, there's certain things they open up about. There's a certain layer that they don't. There's certain layers to the business they still don't talk about. So anytime they open up to you, it's to sell you a book, to improve their reputation, to get a reality series over, or to build up goodwill so they can BS you in an even bigger, more important way. All right. It's fun following this business for so long and then just seeing the cycle, And so many people are like, whoa, this is so new. And I'm like, no, there's like six other things that happened in the last 30 years that are just like it.
It's a little window dressing, the different color of paint, but it's the same con.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, there's a lot more happened on this show. We can talk a lot more about the Cena Randy stuff, but I want to get to calls. We got callers on hold, and I'm going to begin with Special K, who is on hold first. Special K, welcome to the show. You can leave your camera off if you want, or turn it on if you want. Special K dropped off. Okay, so we'll go to let's see if he's back. Oh, now we got him. Yep. Special K, welcome. There we go. Good to see you again. What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, how's it going? So I got a couple points I wanted to bring up. I just want to start out with the opening of the show. When they showed Knight coming to the stage, and they had Priest confronting the Bloodline or whatever, and then he comes to the ring, and then Priest comes out there, and they said, "Oh yeah, come on, let's fight right now." I just wanted to bring up the point. There's always times that they do the opposite, where there's a confrontation in the ring, and then that's the main event. Well, I kind of like what they did tonight, where they said the match was going to happen later, and at the time we didn't know it was the main event. But then they, kind of were like during the show, they were like, "Oh, by the way, that was supposed to be the main event, and now after the confrontation with the women, that became the main event." So I kind of like the what they did there with that.
Yeah, I wrote about that in my report at PWTorch tonight, in my Smackdown report. Hope you're all checking that out to see what I think of the show as it's airing and keeping up on details you might have missed. And one of the things I said is it's interesting. First of all, what would the main event have been if these four women didn't get into a brawl? Like, did Nick Aldis have a beef? Obviously, there had to be something planned at the time that Priest and Knight had the opener. So that presumably would have just gotten bumped till later. But what was it? Or did it get canceled? We don't have the answer to that. But when the women got in the brawl, it's sort of a happy coincidence. Oh, now we have something that's worthy of being the main event, so we're going to make that the main event. But I did like the detail of Tessa Torn Barrett saying this we lost our main event. Our main event was Priest Night. Now we have a new one. And the idea that the show is made up on the fly has some pros and cons. It's sort of exciting. Oh, it's the show is alive. It's not a hard script. The negative is, how would you have filled 3 hours if not for some of these things happening? And we see that a lot. It's one of those things that, I think breaks the immersion a little bit. And I think pro wrestling promoters are better when they present the product whenever possible, and it's impossible to do it all, making things feel as realistic as possible. It's supposed to be a sporting event that we happen to be filming, not a TV production. That's why I don't like, why are they filming Randy Orton backstage? Walking. How boring would that be? Oh, R-Truth walked up to him. How did you know that was going to happen? Why were you filming Randy Orton? All you have to do is show R-Truth going, hey, there's Randy. I mean, like, there's Randy, like in the middle of an interview he was about to do. There's so many easy ways to fix that. But as I say, at least they're not staring at their phones anymore, being filmed, looking at their phone before someone walks in. So progress. But so I mean, it's not going to be entirely logical, but Special K, you're bringing up a point, which is they said, yeah, this is our main event because what was going to be got moved up earlier in the show. So it was a nice touch, but it doesn't fill in all the logicals.
For me, it was a nice ode to the old worked volatility of the NWO era back in WCW, or even the Attitude Era in the WWF, where the shows felt alive because it felt like you had these very heightened personalities essentially taking over and saying, no, I want this now, so it's going to happen now. The production crew's just kind of like, all right, well, we're not going to get in the middle of this, so I guess the match is happening now. As much as it kind of breaks the immersion of the real sports feel, it almost adds of the WWE universe as something cohesive. Like if the wrestlers want it, it's going to happen. And the cameras are turned on, so I guess we're going to film it. And backstage, the producers are trying to scramble and figure something else out. In a way, it does kind of keep you immersed. And for the sake of the pacing of the structure of the show, now there's a seed that viewers can follow over the course of the episode is what's going to be the new main event. And it adds a little bit more investment to, at least in this case this week, a pretty bog standard main event of a women's tournament that didn't really have a lot of juice behind it. So, I agree with what you're saying, Wade, but I also did like it. Any kind of show long thread that makes the product feel a little bit more cohesive, I think it has its checks and balances. Yeah,
and I wasn't against it. I'm just saying it isn't without its logical, which is
sure
what match got displaced. The women's tag wasn't scheduled. So when the scheduled main event happens first, what got bumped, and now is that canceled, or do you always have standby matches depending on whether Miz and Alistair Black goes long or short? They don't want us thinking about it, honestly. If they spend a lot of time explaining it, they're drawing attention to something that they hope people aren't really thinking about when they watch every week. So you have to pick your spots. But in this case, it was very clear that was supposed to be a main event, but they went on first with it. So now people would be wondering what's the main event, and then this happy coincidence happens. So now this primetime show on national cable has a match we can end with, it's not a big deal. I mean, there's certain things you just have to sort of accept as part of pro wrestling. It's not the phrase it's only pro wrestling, but part of pro wrestling is sort of accepting things that are part of the trope of the production and the way things play out. But I still say anywhere you can, without doing damage, make the show more immersive and logical and believable, you should make that effort to do it. Same way that you make moves look real, and you don't sell, you try to make punches look real, unless you're certain wrestlers I won't name right now who are taking heat for their bad punches. Yes.
We could get real messy. We could just go on a segue, get some clicks. Yeah. The clickbait. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. So go ahead, Special K.
That was all I had. I know you got a couple callers lined up, so I'm just going to go ahead and drop off and listen to the rest of the show.
Great. Thanks, Special K. Appreciate it.
Pleasure as always.
Enjoy your weekend. All right, let's go to Jason D next. Jason, welcome. Jason D from Australia. What's on your mind about tonight's show?
Yeah, thanks, Wade and Tej. I was just going to say, regarding John Cena, if we assume that he's going to turn babyface at the end of the year, and right now I don't even know if we can make that assumption, is what being said about him, are we at a point of no return? Mm-hmm. Because it seems like in the wrestling universe, what is said about you holds more water than what you actually do. It's like the words hurt you more than your past actions. So Wade, you brought up about how Randy Orton did dastardly things in the past, but almost feel like fans are like, oh, well, that's all fake, that's just actions. But what is said about you that holds more water and that tends to penetrate more. So with what's been said about Cena, that he's been pretty much this fake person for the past 20 years, and he's shown so much resentment towards the fans, how do they come back from this? That's my question now.
It's a good question. Jason Powell, I mentioned earlier, I'll read his comment about tonight's segment. I recommend you checking out his reports at prowrestling.net. Get off social media or open up a separate tab, and don't listen to randos on Twitter. Listen to people who've been covering the business for decades and see what they're saying on their websites. And I do it for Jason all the time, Jake Barnett. I love their reports. And Jason wrote, I love that the gloves are off for promos on Cena, but I'm curious to see if some of these comments will make it tough for some fans to fully embrace Cena again if he turns babyface before he retires. So, Jason, you're not the only one thinking that. And we mentioned it earlier. So, Tej, what do you think? Is there a sort of an obvious or at least a doable path for Cena to, I don't know if he can withdraw his comments. They're landing too believably. Like they feel credible. Like they feel like if Randy's vouching for it, like Randy could have come out and said, Cena, I don't buy that you always hated the fans. I think it's just recent because of X, Y, and Z happening. You're slowing down. You're jealous of Cody. Hollywood's gone to your head, but you always love the fans. I know you always love the fans. I might have bought that more. So when you say gloves are off, I don't know if I don't know that I buy what Orton said tonight. So I'm wondering if that plays into this. Does Orton claiming I never thought you were sincere sort of match who he used to be and his natural skepticism as a heel? But when Cena wants to turn babyface again, it will actually ring more true when he kind of then clarifies, you know what, I enjoyed you guys for a long time. I got a little disgruntled in the last couple of years. It surfaced, it manifested. But I got my head back on straight because XYZ happened that showed me how wrong I was. Tej, sorry to steal your thunder and talk for 2 minutes before throwing it to you, but go ahead.
Hey, that's why they call it the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show. You know your stuff. But no, like that is essentially what I was going to say, Jason. I think that's the path for Cena moving forward. When the thematic kind of overarching thing that you got going on here is you are fake. You have always been fake. None of this has been genuine. The eventual end game is, well, I'm going to be real for the first time. I'm going to essentially go out as John Cena, the closest thing I've ever been to a real person. The reason I think that you can sell that as a babyface turn and it'll land with people is that the one thing that no one has ever called John Cena out for or tried to question is Cena's love of the game. Whether he's been fake or whether he's not, his devotion to WWE has never been called in question. And that's something that fans will resonate because anyone who's there is watching it because they love wrestling too. That's a common theme that they have with John Cena as a heel, even right now. And if you kind of expound on that, Cena says, I did everything for this business because I love it so much. I'm sorry that I lost my way, and it's time for me to, kind of be real, be honest with you guys. As John Cena, the wrestling fan, the wrestling nerd, and someone who's had the best time of my life for the past 2 decades, I feel like you can redeem this. Whether the execution's going to be there, that's another story, depending on how his feud with Orton goes and how far they decide to take the hypocrisy angle that they're going with now. But I don't think they're anything close to a lost cause. Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, just back to you.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I don't think it's a lost cause. It's just, I'm just thinking about it out loud, the psychology behind it, because it's the same thing that CM Punk accused Cena of. And then it's not like what Cena is going through now, and he might, and like I said, I personally believe it's his own personal deep-rooted bitterness and resentment that might be at a 3, but they've turned it up to a 10. There's no doubt that he's thinking, okay, it's great they've got this Netflix deal, business is going great, but I was there in the trenches. When all these things were happening with the scandals and everything, they relied on me. It was my face. I was the one. I'm the reason for all the marketing executives and the TV networks paying all this money because it was my face put forward that I was the person that you could promote and be a family-friendly product. So there's got to be a part of him that kind of feels that way. But, Punk has said it in character, and I just feel like, to me, it's something I can't buy into because this Cena going through this doesn't undo everything he did for the past 20 years. As a character, as a heel, you can't say, I knew this all along. It doesn't undo that. It reminds me of Bobby the Brain Heenan when he said, I knew this about Hulk Hogan all along when he turned heel in 96, but
Mhm.
does that kind of undo the previous 12 years of Hogan's face turn and all the stuff that he did? You know what I mean? It's sort of like it's an interesting line to
Well, but
draw there and to
Heenan
make
said
that
it as a
type of statement.
heel. Heenan said it as a heel, and Orton saying it as a beloved legacy babyface who you would think at the place Randy's in right now, he's more trustworthy because he seems to be in the best place he's ever been in his life and has the fans on his side. So I think, clarify for me, Jason, if you think that's a notable difference.
Well,
or maybe
Heenan,
it's not relevant to your point. I mean, I'm open
yeah,
to
it's
that
not.
too.
I know what you're saying. It's not.
Yeah.
It's kind of relevant, but it's not. But what I'm saying is that for a character to say about another character, "Oh, I knew you were like this all along."
Mhm.
Well, maybe. Well, does that undo all the good stuff that character's done? Like to me, Orton's saying, "I knew all this about Cena all along." Well, you know, like you said, it's not like Orton's character has been pure, but it seems the psychology is that staying true to yourself, even if you are a dastardly person, have done dastardly things, that's more commendable than being a quote unquote fake nice person. But then everyone kind of fakes being nice as well. I'm just getting to the whole psychology of it. But I still believe my main point that in the wrestling universe, it's what people say about you tends to hold more weight than your actual actions. So as Jason said in his review, I'm going to be keen to see how they turn this around for Cena and if he can undo everything that's been said about him. Because I believe the actions can be easily undone. I mean, as what CM Punk did with The Undertaker leading into WrestleMania 29 was, you know, of all things, I mean, that was terrible. But then he came back a couple of months later and people were cheering of him. Actions tend to be more forgivable than words.
It's interesting. I find myself disagreeing with some of what you're saying, but I'm kind of reprocessing it. To me, I don't necessarily trust what people say if their actions betray that. I think if somebody is kind to me, but then I hear behind my back they're saying negative things about me or doing things to like in a workplace, if someone's like acts like my buddy and they're rooting for me to get a promotion, but their actions actually belie that, they makes it seem like they're trying to undercut me. I care more about the actions than them baby facing me lying to my face. I'd rather have a neighbor who is a fake good person than a neighbor who's a genuinely bad person and is true to themselves, but is constantly like stealing from me and breaking windows and blasting the stereo at 3 a.m. Like, I don't want someone who's true to themselves who are awful people. I'll take a fake person who just fakes being nice. I'd rather be around that person. Anyway, go ahead.
But Cena not even fake. If Cena not even fake being nice. He faked nice actions too. You can't undo all those. You can't undo all those Make-A-Wish appearances. You can't undo all the commendable things he did in the ring. So even if he was quote unquote faking it, and Randy Orton knew all along, well, he did a pretty damn good job because it's not just the words; it was his actions too. So that's where it kind of falls short with me.
Yep. And I don't. I just feel like this hasn't been thought through. I think we needed like a 15-minute conversation with Cena on the phone with people who are a little more detail oriented than him. I mean, I've said this before. Cena was a super successful. I think there's some incredible value that he had as this safe PG face of a brand for an industry that was going through so much trauma from the Chris Benoit incident and all the drug deaths and steroid deaths of wrestlers and fighting the Parents Television Council, and before that, the Vince McMahon steroid trial and Hogan lying on Arsenio Hall. There was like 15 years plus of really bad baggage. And John Cena, genuine or not, gave WWE the face of a brand that helped them become a publicly acceptable brand and company for NFL athletes to sit front row at, for advertisers to support, for corporate partnerships. He added a value in that way. And so there was a real value to Cena's legacy. But I also don't think Cena's main event, top guy IQ is above average. I'm not saying he's a dolt or, doesn't understand the business. Like, who are you to say? But I haven't interviewed Cena, but I've interviewed most top people in this industry over the past 30 years. And I mean, not all of them, but I don't see evidence of Cena being above average in that way. And so I'm not going to list the top list, but there are people who just absolutely are like world smarter about the business and more savvy. We're putting up the final installment of my interview with Scott Hall. It was a 7-hour interview. It's part of our 18 years ago VIP podcast feed. And it's a graduate level course in professional wrestling. Scott Hall had his issues and he admitted to them. But he's one of the smartest, most compelling wrestling minds to listen to. And you can listen to, 5, 6, 7 hours of Scott Hall talking if you go VIP and listen to that. It's amazing. I think Cena's eyes would glaze over listening to some of the stuff Scott's saying. I just think they're not even things Cena even thought to ask about the business. So with that burial, actually, I prefaced some nice comments. I'm just saying what I feel. I'm not worried about the ratio of good to bad. I'm just trying to be genuine because I'm serving the listeners and readers, not egos of wrestlers and famous rich people. So when it comes to the Cena thing, I just wish they sat down and said, okay, were my Make-A-Wish appearances genuine? Was I a good person there? Did I enjoy doing that? Was I on a parallel track at that time, not liking the fans? Or did I actually like the fans then? And it was something later that happened where I started getting disgruntled with them, but I still genuinely cared about the Make-A-Wish kids. Even as I was, but like, give us a timeline because everybody needs to be informed on this. Because it's like when Rock just was sent away or left. No one knew for weeks how to address the Rock situation. Is he going to show up again and reinject himself in the storyline? Cody doesn't want to ruffle feathers and say the wrong thing and upset Rock. He's on the board. Cody's got a good thing going. So you have all these sort of like promos where everyone's like scared to say the wrong thing and talking in circles around this pertinent issue. With Cena, they just need to sit down and come up with what is the plan, let everybody know what it is, and now we know what the framework is of his character. And I don't think it was a strategy. I just don't think Cena can be bothered, and I don't think it crosses his mind as important. He just thinks, I'll insult the fans, they'll boo me, case closed. Jason.
I think also just adding to that, real quick before your response, Jason, but just I think adding to that, I think another thing that is leading to all of this feeling a little undercooked is the biases of other wrestlers in kayfabe on the roster. Cena's legacy has been brought up numerous times, both by Cody and now by Randy. However, they both have their own complex relationships with Cena. Cody admired him. Randy's been his career rival. So when they speak about him in kayfabe, are we supposed to be believing that that's impacting how they talk? Because, I know despite Orton being a babyface now and Bobby Heenan was a heel at that time, there's enough hatred in kayfabe that Orton has for Cena that you could buy him having a very negatively skewed opinion, just even if Cena was being completely genuine. But has WWE presented this promo with that filter in mind, or are we supposed to be taking what Orton said as objective truth because he is the babyface who has been presented as being, the guy who's got it all figured out, the person who's comfortable with what he's accomplished? That, I think, is also really kind of muddying the waters as to what this Cena character's kind of intentions and noble framework are supposed to be presented as during the heel turn.
Very good.
Back to you, Jason. Back to you in the studio.
Yeah.
That's all right. I guess thinking about it, where I can see from Orton and Punk who have a go at Cena, what they're really having a go at is that John Cena isn't the perfect person that he made himself out to be. He is just as flawed and has quote unquote evil ways. He has resentment and bitterness, and he can fly off the handle and not be so good, just like us. You know what I mean? So Cena's always sort of been above it. That's the way he's been presented, but he's actually not. And maybe that's what they're trying to say. So he's kind of just like us, because Orton can't say he's been a great person his whole career. CM Punk definitely can't say it. Pretty much all wrestlers can't say it. And that's where it's getting to them. It's the hypocrisy. See, I always thought...
Is it smart, Jason, to unwind all of John Cena's history? Because I don't think it's necessary to have Cena be an effective heel today. I mean, all Cena say is when I got away from this cauldron of WWE schedule and being addicted to the crowd reactions, even though, deep down I kind of resented half of you, all you deep-voiced adult males booing me all those years. It took me stepping away to really have it land. You guys are all jerks. You guys treated me like crap. Like, why can't he just timestamp it after he left full-time wrestling? That's when it sunk in and people started talking to him and the checks weren't coming in and the adulation wasn't there from half the crowd, and he realized what jerks half the crowd were. I think he could have done that and maybe a more sophisticated way of then throwing the other half under the bus who were cheering for him. He could just go, I'm not even sure you guys were genuine. Whatever. I don't know. I just think there's been some steps along the way here, Jason, where they put a timeline on it and framed it and thought it through and respected the narrative enough to have it have integrity and stand up to scrutiny. This would be a much better time for us. And I was genuinely excited and thought they would do it, and they haven't, because I think Cena's kind of on an island doing his own thing.
That to me is the most frustrating.
Sorry,
Sorry, go
Tej,
ahead.
since I interrupted Jason, I'm going to override you and throw to Jason since I did interrupt him midstream. But remember your thought, please. Go ahead, Jason.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. It's good conversation because I think, I've talked about that Cena time stamping it and talking about, when this occurred to him. And I've always thought that the reason why he struck first against the fans, turning against them, is because I love the framing of it being a dysfunctional relationship. And that when everything is going well and you think everything's going well, that's when it strikes. That's when the bad things happens. So he's getting out in front of the fans. But I also think there's an element to this where it's kind of like, it's almost like WWE are giving, and Cena's giving a wink and a nod to the fans that who always wanted Cena to turn heel. Well, now we're giving it to you. It's like they're rewarding long-term fans who always wanted Cena to turn heel, and now it's kind of a last run. We're kind of giving you what you always wanted, which I guess, in a way, I can see where they're coming from, but this heel turn would have landed so much better back in 2011 and 2012.
Yeah.
It's just bad timing. But to make it work now, and the story that you tell us why he decided to do this, that's why I thought it has to be more personal against Cody Rhodes. Of all people, for Cena to have this attitude change and to be this dastardly heel, why Cody? And he's talked about Cody. So I thought getting into more about Cody not falling on his face like Cena thought he would, and Cody being the face of the company and that eating away at Cena, that was a better story. Now, on this topic, I've heard people say that, I know people have crapped on the main event of WrestleMania, right? But I'm going to give WWE the benefit of the doubt here. They are telling a longer story with Cody Rhodes, right? We know that there's going to be Cody Cena too. That is going to happen. And there's going to be a point in that match where Cody's going to have to make the decision that he made in the first match. Does he cheat to win, or does he do the right thing and does that backfire him again? Or is the story going to be Cody does the right thing and he proves to Cena he doesn't have to cheat? So whereas people crapped on the main event, it's part one of this story. It's not just necessarily about Cena, it's about Cody. And when that moment comes in Cena Cody 2, will Cody take the bait? That's the story they're trying to tell here. So I'll give them a bit of leniency on that, because we tend to think as WrestleMania as the end of the story, but really this is just the beginning of Cody's journey. And does he give in to what Cena has talked about? Because I keep going back to Wade and Tej, that promo which came out of nowhere with CM Punk before the Royal Rumble about the crack starting to get to Cody. Will he crack? Will he crack under the pressure? That, to me, sometimes we could think there isn't a long-term plan, but I think there is skeletons of it, and I think they know where they want to go, and sometimes they get derailed. But that promo that's Punk cut on Cody, talking about how he would crack and maybe he would, there's got to be something to that. So I think there's a longer story here.
One of Tej, my thought. One of the, like, who was it? There was a quarterback in the NFL this year. I'm trying to remember who it was, who was knocked out of bounds, but or almost knocked out of bounds. Like, you're supposed to like pull back when you're hitting a quarterback out of bounds, like to protect them. There's, you can get a 15-yard penalty if you hit them when their momentum has already taken them out of bounds. And he exaggerated. He flopped. He took a bump, a wrestling bump, and it struck me. Yeah, it might get you a penalty in a big game, but it's sort of character-wise, I think, like cheating in a way I don't want you to cheat. Like, I know the goal in sports is kind of get away with a hold on the offensive line, or, get away with a foul if the ref can't see you in hockey or basketball. But like, that rule was there to protect him, and he abused that rule by pretending he got hit when he didn't. So it's not about winning and losing. It's about protecting his career and his health. And he took advantage of that rule and took a wrestling bump to try to get a penalty. And I didn't like it. Now, I'll wind this back to this thing. Wrestling bookers want latitude with people like us who pay attention to the product, and all our listeners who want to, immerse themselves in it and try to figure out, does this make sense? Are they serving us the best story they could? Are they respecting us enough with detail work or not? Because there's a whole array of examples of really bad bookers who didn't care at all about any of that stuff. And there's people who try really hard but are incompetent or have bad ideas or don't really know what they're doing. There's a whole array. It's not even a linear line. There's a whole array of different bookers. But a lot of bookers will lean on, you can't critique anything anything we have done because you don't know where we're going. And to me, that's like the quarterback who's faking a bump on the outside. You can't, as a catch-all, say no criticism is valid because there are some things we don't know. That's not fair, and it takes away the benefit of the doubt we'd like to give you. Yes, but so Jason, this is all to kind of go back to your comment of, you're not saying don't judge until we get to the end. There might be a master plan, but I think you can watch it along the way and realize they have not earned our confidence that there's some master plan. Well, this will all make sense in retrospect, because there are holes in this, because of Rock's politics, because of Cena's lack of attention to detail in terms of like, when did he decide to turn against the fans? Also, pretty much pretending Cody was just an outline figure in front of him, not really addressing him. I thought that was entirely disrespectful and self-centered to Cena to stand opposite of Cody the first 2 weeks and not make it about Cody. This should have been about Cody. The obvious best storyline for me at this stage that we're at with what we've seen is it should come through that it's jealousy over Cody's universal approval from fans that led to Cena resenting the fans in retrospect. Now, they don't have to take that approach, but to me, it felt like pretty self-evidently the more obvious, better approach to take than Cena pretty much staring through Cody and ignoring he was standing there and just throwing trite insults at the fans that had no timeline and really didn't land as credible. So I'm not willing to sit here and step back until the very end of every storyline and never judge it, but I think it's fair to always have a humility, and this is a full circle to concede this point. And this is where you're right, Jason, while at the same time maybe being too broad in not taking in the evidence that we have so far to kind of paint your confidence that this will land in a good place. We shouldn't fully judge a storyline in progress. But it doesn't mean we can't have an opinion on the progress they've made so far and express concerns about where that could be going. So just wanted to get that out there, because what I don't want is fans to go, it's wrong for anybody to second guess a storyline until the storyline is clearly done. We have all the facts and we look back on it. I don't think they've earned that. Or certain people have earned more of it than others. I say in Paul Heyman, I trust when it comes to Bloodline storyline. Like, I kind of, if it doesn't seem to make sense, I kind of trust it'll probably make sense. Let's give it time. John Cena hasn't earned that trust with me. Nor has a storyline led by Paul Levesque with the politics of The Rock, and John Cena bringing half his attention to it, but half not, while Cody's scared, rightfully so, to screw things up for himself by leading the way on things that might make more sense. And I don't think there's other people in WWE, to be frank, who actually want to help this storyline. I think there's rival factions within WWE on night 1 and night 2. I don't think night 1 wants to help night 2 succeed. So there's a lot going on here, Jason. I just wanted to throw that out there. Tej, go ahead. Jason, remember any thoughts you want to say in response to that?
I think, just adding on to what you were speaking about, Wade. Well, Jason, I do agree that I do have faith that there is some level of a future plan with this storyline, especially given that for the first time outside of years, Cody has not appeared on WWE Weekly TV for a decent amount of time. I think that does indicate that following his match at WrestleMania, there will be some sort of creative evolution for the babyface Cody Rhodes character, which would, of course, mean that Cody Cena was in service of a future something down the line. Right. Where I do agree with Wade in terms of, having a negative judgment of the WrestleMania match at this point in time, besides that, is that WrestleMania at this point has been built up, for better or for worse, as the biggest event that WWE has to offer. And it feels like the Night 2 main event, which the vast majority of people see as the ultimate main event, being effectively a prop to further only 2 wrestlers' character evolutions for the rest of the year, it feels like a waste. It feels like turning down $1 for the sake of a cent early on. And I feel like a little bit of skepticism is warranted for a creative team that essentially turned out a mid-WrestleMania match in service of something else. Do I believe that they have a cohesive vision for it in the future? At this point, I do, at least on Cody's side, which that's a separate issue, but I do think that Cody's path and Cena's path are going to diverge at least for a little bit before they return. I think Cody, as a babyface with a chip on his shoulder, has a lot of mileage on the brand outside of the title scene, at least for a little bit before him and Cena return for the eventual sequel. But I do think that the train of thought behind going about the storyline this way, if this is indeed the idea, it's like, all right, this WrestleMania match was the beginning for both of these wrestlers, Cody and Cena, to map out their arc for 2025. I do think conceptually that feels a bit flawed. And going back to what you were saying earlier, Wade, about this should story with Cody and this and that. I think that's what infuriates me about Cena's heel turn more than anything else, is there were a few stories that felt so natural and that could have worked so well. Jealousy over Cody Rhodes for being the first ever white meat babyface to be almost unanimously loved when his reception was so mixed over the course of his career. You could work in the aging vets being terrified of being obsolete and wanting to win one last championship so bad that he was willing to turn evil to get it. That's what they were hinting at following his press conference at the Royal Rumble. Wade, you're muted if you're talking.
Cena's the Brett Favre who didn't want Aaron Rodgers to come in and replace him without skipping a beat. Like Cena could have just been bitter. Like, not that he wanted WWE to fail, but that could have been something that fans kind of connected the dots on, is Cena wanted to be missed and Cody took that away from him by succeeding.
Yes,
I know Jack about the NFL, but I'll take your word for it because it seems like you're agreeing with me. But where I'm going with this, it feels like the angle of like the fans hated me despite everything I've done, and I think standard deviation. I apologize if it was somebody else, but I think it was you that said it in the comment that Wade showed earlier. It feels like that angle feels a little bit too late after the past 4 to 5 years of Cena being lauded as this elder statesman who has settled into his role as a part-timer, putting people over, and everybody loves him for it because they agree that Cena's role in WWE was executed to perfection. And aside from his completely over-dominant booking, he did his job perfectly well. There was that level of acceptance that he kind of settled into post 2018, 2019. If this was 2011, 2012, this would have come across a lot better, but it just feels like a swerve and a weird route to go with this heel turn just for the sake of it, that it grinds my gears because we could have been seeing a much more simpler, a much more well-executed story, and we wouldn't have had any of the divisive reception that takes away from the fact that John Cena turned heel for the first time in 2 decades.
And one other point before throwing to Jason, it's in response to something you said, Jason, is Cena's kind of giving the fans who wanted him to turn heel what they wanted. I think they wanted it a dozen years ago. I don't know that they wanted it now. So that's part of the problem. And 2, I want the story to make sense in canon, not in the second layer alt kayfabe world of, well, the fans booed Cena, so we're going to give them what they want now that we have less to lose because Cena's retiring. Like, I want the story to make sense. Just based on the story in canon. I don't want to overuse that word, but like the what is on the wrestling shows, it should make sense. I don't want the story only to make sense if we look at it through the lens of, well, it's a little bit late, maybe too late or whatever, but we're doing it because the fans wanted it and it wasn't practical to give it to them then. Cena wasn't willing to do it, but we're doing it now. Like, that's not a storyline. That's like a behind the scenes thing, but the story on the air has to have the integrity and logic and withstand scrutiny to make sense regardless and separate from that. And I'm not even disagreeing with you, Jason, on that. It was just you brought that up and I wanted to say, like, we shouldn't just embrace this because we wanted it a dozen years ago and now we're getting it. Like, no, we want it to make sense in the time frame we want it. This might not be the right time frame. Second, circumstances are different. So if you do it now, it has to be different than what we wanted then. And the circumstances should include an acknowledgement of the world champion who's led to a boom period that's selling more tickets than John Cena ever did at higher prices than Cena ever did, standing opposite of the ring of Cena, having to act subservient to the interloper Rock, who's screwing everything up like a Brahma bull in a china shop, and John Cena showing up after his Hollywood gig going, I still know how things are going, or I know how this business works, when he's not probably paying much attention, and then he's kind of half-assing the storyline with a bunch of plot holes. And here's poor Cody having this hot run get derailed and interrupted and messed with. That's a bad reason to give fans from 2012 what they wanted in 2025. Like, give fans in 2025 what they want, which is Cena being, Cody Rhodes being the center of attention and the protected top star in his late 30s, who is drawing huge right now and universally being cheered. Don't screw that up because you want to give somebody, when they were booing him when they were 28, something that they might not care about now as a father of 4 who's a 41-year-old. Like, it's just a dumb reason to do it. And I don't want WWE to do a bad storyline to please somebody who's in a different stage of their life because they didn't do it 12 years ago. Jason, that's not a rebuttal to what you're saying. It just sparked that little rant that I've had in my head about this whole thing about, well, they're finally giving the fans what they want. Jason, over to you.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. And a lot of times I'll talk about something, but I don't necessarily might agree with the decision. I'm only explaining where I think they're coming from, but it doesn't mean that I'm for it. So no, I don't want them to turn John Cena heel because they're trying to make up to the fans that wanted it in 2012. I'm just saying what they're thinking. In relation to what you're saying about the Cody Rhodes, the main event, right? I agree that there are plot holes and they could have told the story in a better way. But I look at what they do and I try and say to myself, why are they doing this? And a lot of times in my mind, I will do that, whether that to me, that's sort of, that's more of a priority to me in my mind than whether I like it or not. Now, maybe that's not the way other people look at it, but I always look at, okay, where do I think they're going with this? And that tends to override my thoughts. So when people crap on Cody Rhodes as a character not hitting John Cena in the head when Cena deserved it, I say to myself, wait, Cody Rhodes isn't dead and buried because of this. Where are they going with this? They've decided to turn John Cena heel. There's nothing we can do about it. Cody's in this position. There's really nothing we can do about it. And I know you don't like that thought because we shouldn't accept it. But I'm kind of like, all right, where are they going with this now? If the story is that Cody's going to lead to Cody making a major decision in his character arc, then we can let that play out. I mean, what if the story they're trying to tell by the end of the year, that as Cena has a change of heart in the way he feels about the fans and the way he thinks he needs to go about things, at the same time, Cena might do a slow babyface turn, so Cody does a slow heel turn. What if Cena creates a monster that he can no longer control now? What if he's planted the seeds in Cody's head and Cody truly becomes the American Nightmare? Because Cody is not a nightmare. There's nothing nightmarish about Cody. He's a lovable, likable person. I believe that the number one thought I think Triple H has in his head is that there's 52 weeks a year. I think he's obsessed with it. I think he wakes up in the night saying 52 weeks, because he feels like he has to fill out 52 weeks.
And
when I was listening to you and Jason Powell on the flagship, Jason talked about how Triple H does slow booking. He's very slow in his booking because in the back of his mind, he's thinking, I've got 52 weeks and I have to tell a story and where are we going with this? And I have to let it play out and all the rest of it. Maybe he does it too much, but I have faith that they're trying to tell a story here that's going to lead to Cody being in, I don't know if he's going to be in a stronger position, but he's going to come out with maybe a stronger character that we can invest in. I like to believe that. Now, I might be proven wrong, but that's just the way it is. Before I go, I want to end up. Can I end up on something that we're all going to agree with?
Don't bet on it. No, go ahead. Let's
no,
try.
You will agree with this. Crown Jewel's coming to Perth, right? So
yes, sir.
That. We're coming to my home city, and I want to make this plea to Triple H. You do not have to do champion versus champion for us, okay? You do not have to do it. We know what happened last year with the booking with Gunther and Cody and how it kind of derailed Gunther a bit. It didn't do Liv or Nia any favors. You had two heels. Please don't feel like you have to do that, right? I'm just saying to Triple H, you don't have to come here and do champion versus champion. If you want to make Crown Jewel special, have every championship up for grabs at Crown Jewel. You know what I mean? Say this is the Crown Jewel, all the championships are up for grabs. Make it a championship weekend where you have all the championships defended between Raw, SmackDown, and Crown Jewel. But you do not have to do a champion versus champion match. I'm just saying it, Wade. We talked about it at the time. That ill-timed Cody versus Gunther match, it didn't have to happen. You don't have to book towards it. I'm telling him right now, we're happy to have it. You don't have to do it.
I am in agreement with you. Are they doing Night of Champions in June, though? Like, isn't that going to be like a bunch of title matches, too? I guess that's far enough.
Does that pay-per-view still exist?
I mean, it did exist in 2023. I think that's where we had Owens and Zayn versus Reigns and Sikoa. But even then, Wade, I think they've kind of orphan initialized the name. Even the last Night of Champions in Saudi didn't have all of the championships on the line. In fact, there were quite a few matches that had no title on the line. So I do agree with that. But Jason, I am also in agree with you. I think outside of very, very rare cases, champion versus champion matches always leads to somebody's hype train getting a little bit muted, and I don't think WWE needs that.
No.
Jason, how do you feel about a PLE title closely associated with Saudi Arabia as any coming to Perth?
That's very funny you mentioned that, because when I heard Crown Jewel was coming to Perth, I was like, I don't know if I like that connotation of what a lot of people think of Crown Jewel with our city.
Yeah.
Crown Jewel's really got nothing to do with our city.
I know.
You know what I mean? Couldn't we have our own type of pay-per-view, or even a name of another? Like we had Elimination Chamber. That's fine. Can't we have something else?
Yeah, Crown Jewel makes sense for Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a title that fits the image of Saudi Arabia. I don't. Is Perth known for crowns or jewels?
Well, we're known for our mining. We make a lot of money through mining.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you can do with that, but
I mean,
we're not really known about for crown jewels. Well, we do have a lot of nice diamonds in the Kimberley. I will say that, but no, it is a stretch. Yeah.
But AEW named an event at Target Center in Minneapolis, right next to the Mississippi River, Quake by the Lake, and we don't have earthquakes here. The LA Lakers moved from the Minneapolis Lakers in 1960 to LA, and they didn't change the name, but LA doesn't have lakes like Minnesota does.
Yes.
So what's up with that? And what's with the Utah Jazz? You know, they were in the New Orleans Jazz, and then they moved to Utah. They should be the Utah something else, the Utah Mountain Men or something. I don't know.
And you know what? What's something? Why do they call it Oval Team when it's round?
I don't think that's quite in line with the points I'm making.
You know my reference. That's gold. Come on, that's gold, Wade. All right. I'll leave it at that. All right.
I thought we were going to agree at
George.
the end.
I've got to get out now.
All right. Thanks, Jason.
I hear you, Jason. I know what you're doing.
I'll be like George. I'm ending on a high note. I'm out. That's it. Thank you very much.
High note with Tej, not with me. I'm still confused. All right. Darrell.
I'll explain to you later. I'll explain that to you later.
Okay, good. Darrell is on hold. He just said in the chat he disagrees with everything we said about John Cena. So let's see what Darrell has to say. Darrell, welcome. VIP member Darrell. Thank you.
How you doing, Wade? How you doing, Tej?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, I did say I disagree with most of the talks tonight. Everything really, of the John Cena talk, just because I feel like the path that they chose for John Cena, it was the wrong path, as well as it putting John Cena in this path plays to the fans who just want to go and just do what they're doing right now, how they're being both ways, and they're just playing in it and just want to have fun. Because I feel like you could have got more out of John Cena once he announced that he was retiring. You could have got more out of him by just setting up stories and just allowing people to go against the retiring John Cena, and maybe just putting them out the pasture, one feud or another feud. And hey, John Cena ain't got to win in 10 years. That right there, all of that. But playing to nostalgia. Oh, what if John Cena wins 17 and he hasn't won a match in 7 years and stuff like this, and 10 years, 7 years at Mania, 10 years are all together. Like it does more damage than it does good. Look at tonight. You guys we all have spent more time trying to correct and fix their booking and how they're going to do with John Cena than anything else. And we're trying to fix this moment where how he's coming off jokey at times and stuff like that. I think it does more damage in the short term and long term. Look at the people that you have hurt, who have helped you have this long run of sellout shows and just doing bigger numbers and stuff like that, when he's doing more harm than help. And now we're trying to build this one person back up to maybe be on a, not even on the ground that it could have been, but on a level ground where it's not sinking anymore. And you might spend, I think Cade said it, the last 3 months, he's spending time trying to figure out what is John Cena character. Go ahead.
Duro, what maybe you covered it, but summarize. What in one or two sentences, like what do you most disagree with that's been said about Cena tonight?
That what Cena is doing can be a good thing, period. Like, okay, even if you can correct it.
That's what I want to clarify. Thank you. So you're saying what you disagree with is our attempt to correct something that you think shouldn't have been done in the first place. And even if the flaws we're pointing out are corrected. There's still overriding flaws that can't be corrected. They should have had Cena stay babyface and not disrupt everything else. Is that fair?
Yes, true.
Okay. And you know what? I've made my case. I think babyface Cena, babyface Cody could have absolutely worked. I've pushed back from the beginning on people going, "Oh, that's going to be boring." It's like not to have a wait till it plays out. Attitude towards everything. But I was like, you know what? I think there's some pretty good material to work with there of the top star of the past, top star of the current, the dynamic between them. They're respectful, but there's some tension. Something is said, tempers flare. Like I am for babyface heel is the core structure of wrestling booking, home team, away team, all that stuff. But I always had the caveat, there's a special exception, Ultimate Warrior Hulk Hogan, for instance, where it's just like, no, we got to do it. And this would feel special. And it feels more special if you have more of a construct where we have an idea of how we're supposed to react to Pretty Deadly consistently week after week, and we don't, or a clear picture of how the Street Profits are supposed to be portrayed. We don't. It goes on and on. Like there's just too much of it. Each one individually you can justify some of the time or a lot of the time, but collectively it doesn't. Cena, Cody, top babyface pure star of this era, top babyface pure star of the past era, egos clashing, all the stakes, Cena's record, title reign, Cody not wanting to interrupt the journey. I mean, I just think there was a lot there. And to kind of wedge, and this is in backing up what you're saying, Darrell, to kind of wedge the storyline, even done perfectly, it's more entertaining, but I don't think this sounds profound to say, and I think there's people writing television who don't understand this or would disagree with it is a better way a less arrogant way to put it. And who would disagree with this, but the goal of pro wrestling booking is not to be entertaining. It's to protect the construct and the rails of storytelling that leads people to passionately want to see somebody win a match or lose a match so badly that they'll pay money and spend their time watching it happen. And there's a lot of entertaining things you can do along the way, like Hurt Business with that Benny Hill segment practically on Dynamite at the beginning on Wednesday night, where like these 5 people are singing their song and they throw them around and they're taking these Shawn Michaels to Hulk Hogan cartoon bumps into walls. Like it's entertaining, but it doesn't help the tone of your show. It doesn't help Hurt Business feel like a serious act because they're partaking in an obvious clown skit. So stop trying to be entertaining, or don't base things on how entertaining they are. Look at decisions that are made through the lens of, does this help the construct of pro wrestling that ultimately draws the most money, which is Sami Zayn in Montreal, Cody in his journey at WrestleMania. Those are the things that get fans really worked up more than ha-ha humor. You can have that on the mid-card. You can incorporate it in ways that's not counterproductive. But I'm not saying don't be entertaining. But what I'm saying is the definition of a good segment or angle is not that it's entertaining. So the defense for Cena was, it'd be boring to see Cena and Cody be both good guys for the next 2 months. So I'm in favor of Cena turning heel. It'd be more entertaining. As this discussion and many others we've had have shown, Darrell, you can have something more entertaining that actually undercuts a lot of other more important things. By the way, including Cody Rhodes, who's been derailed by the entertainment factor of this nostalgic John Cena doing a half-assed job executing it.
Yeah, so true, so true. And I say one thing: if that story, like you was putting together, would have been told way before The Rock got involved, you could have went that way. But soon The Rock got involved, you killed any story that you could have told with John Cena when they put that together. You would have had to do that with John Cena, him winning the Rumble, and then build on to that to whoever. But once you put The Rock in, you killed any story, and then now allowing John Cena to go out and, like you said, the cartoon faces, the not taking things serious, it just destroyed everything. And now you got to rebuild the title and people. That's like 2-3 different things that you have to do after this whole event with John Cena.
Yeah. Tej, you want to jump in on
it is interesting. Oh yeah, I was going to say it is interesting to note that there were so many avenues for a Cena heel turn that felt, at least on paper, like more of a layup, and they've just thrown these extraneous ingredients into the pot in an attempt to elevate it beyond being predictable, and they've kind of lost the forest for the trees, is what it seems to be the general opinion on the internet is.
It's like that scene in Austin Powers. Why, if you're an evil villain, why complicate killing the other person? You know, why make it the most complicated thing that can backfire on you? Just go straight forward with it.
I mean, yeah, there is a fine line between, just entertainment for the sake of short-term entertainment's sake, and then just not overcomplicating what should be a simple things. You give the people what they want, and people have fantasy booked Cena heel turns for the past decade, or dreamed of Cena being violent or maniacally evil. Work with that a little bit. You don't have to be meta. You don't have to go for these other routes just because they fit in with long-term booking.
Or
And
give you a
even if
sugar rush online.
Exactly, especially that one, as someone who grew up with the internet. But even if you kept him babyface, and I hate to bring up other promotions because it just leads to a tribalistic conversation, but I have to bring up Bryan Danielson's retirement tour in 2024, where it was essentially a parade of dream matches with an overarching story of this kind of old man having fun, but does he still have it as a serious competitor trying to win the big one last time? You could have touched on those themes, and with Cena at this point, you're guaranteed a shortcut to a big fight feel, especially redoing some of his famous rivalries, just speed running Cena Styles, Cena Orton, Cena Punk, Cena Cody, Cena Rollins. You could have worked with that within a babyface context without going for this other angle they've chosen to go with.
Darrell, anything else you want to add?
I say this, Wade, you've been personally not involved, but in the place of one of the best stories being told right now in sports, and that's with your Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards. Just think about it like this. Anthony Edwards, what he did last year when he took out Kevin Durant, he took out the defending champions. Yeah, he got tired against Luka. Yep. Got tired against Luka and all of that. Yeah, but hey, he learned from that. Came back this year. Look what he did. Took out
Luka,
some people say the GOAT, LeBron, and a future GOAT in Luka. Took him out. And you see the interest that he's drawing to people. Now he's considered himself the face of the NBA. These are type of stories, even though some people might then catch up to the story until just when he just took out Luka and LeBron. But you captivated with the story, and it adds more to him. Not with what they're doing right now, what you're seeing with what they're trying to do with John Cena. Because I know y'all was saying, I know everybody been saying, well, what about if this what Randy said about him gonna hurt him from turning babyface? If you turn heel, why are you worrying about turning babyface? Why are we worrying about him turning babyface? He could turn babyface after he retired, because everybody's gonna get cheered. Think about it like this: Rasheed Wallace was one of the hated people, but now he out the NBA. People, hey, you know what? I respect Rasheed Wallace. I respect those bad boys of the past, of the Pistons, or whoever. They're lovable now. So he shouldn't even be worrying about that. We shouldn't be trying to predict what he should be doing later on down the line. We should be entrenched into the story, and that's what I mean by what hurt.
And so maybe a one-line summary would be: choose authenticity over entertainment. Like make the authentic route you choose entertaining, but don't choose the most entertaining route at the expense of it ringing true, feeling authentic. Someone in the chat said authenticity is king earlier. I'm paraphrasing there. That, I think, good booking, and when it comes to turns, when it comes to promos, when it comes to feuds, when it comes to what is the genesis of a feud and what's the driving motivation for the characters involved in it, put authenticity ahead of entertainment, and then work to make the authentic path entertaining afterwards. Yeah. Cool. Darrell.
Yes, sir. Just to move on past the Cena talk and talk about something else in SmackDown. I know we tired of the multi-man matches and stuff like that, but having Jacob Fatu and how he talks on the mic, and when he went to Nick Aldis, and he let Solo talk, but you can see him side-eyeing Solo and everything like that. And when he's talking about, hey, I'm all gas, no brakes, I'm a dog, walk yo, and all of that, that made it feel serious. Like, okay, this guy, he'll go out here and say, I'm gonna pin all three of these guys and show you that I am better than all that. And I'm appreciating that they're gonna have a multi-man match, and I see what they're trying to do. They understand that they don't have the main title right now on SmackDown, so they're trying to build that title up and using that to build Jacob Fatu up. How you seeing how they're going right now with this? Do you see that this is building Jacob Fatu up in a different way outside of how you seen how the IC title built up Gunther and how they tried to use the IC title to build up somebody like Braun Breaker, but now you have to put him in a subservient role to self to build him up to the next level? Do you see this as a different path by using some of the same tropes that we done grown about, like multi-man matches, but his way of bringing real is making it feel more important?
Tej.
Oh, fair enough. All right.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of thoughts about the booking structure of the U.S. title scene at this moment. I've read about that in my column every week on the SmackDown Feud Tracker. Shameless plug, but I love it. Booking a champion in a multi-man feud it allows for a much cleaner structure when the overarching story, as it is with Jacob Fatu, is inter-faction turmoil. The number one thing that we're all waiting for is the eventual turn on Solo Sikoa, right? Where, we're all waiting for "I hate you, Solo," and the crowd is going to absolutely come unglued when we hear it for the first time, because we know Fatu is poised to become the next big hoss in the main event. However, he's still got to be feuding with outside the bloodline, for the title in the meantime. How do you do that but not make the challengers not be the second fiddle? Simple. You get a bunch of challengers all coming in at once. That way, guys like Damian Priest and LA Knight, they can have promo battles and number one contenders matches against each other. They don't feel like they're shoehorned into a bloodline story, which was a common complaint for me during late stage Roman Reigns title scene, is a lot of the kind of challenges of the month just felt meaningless bodies while we were focusing on Jey Uso looking conflicted in the corner. In this case, Jacob Fatu, he can focus on side-eyeing Solo Sikoa. They can build up that rivalry, which they did beautifully on tonight's episode with, Solo Sikoa's trademark bluster really affecting Fatu, because he got Jacob Fatu walked into a fatal four-way, and Jacob Fatu was not happy about that. They can focus on that. The Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest, LA Knight, they all have something concrete to do. They're building other overlapping rivalries in the meantime. And like you said, Darrell, Jacob Fatu in a multi-man match is a recipe for an absolute barn burner, because the guy just steamrolls through everything in his path. And I think it's a safe assumption that he will be retaining in his first title defense at Backlash. So having a classic kind of smash him, stack him, pin him visual over three of the most engaging superstars on the WWE roster is going to do wonders in cementing Jacob Fatu as one of the next great heels of WWE. That's my general thoughts on the booking structure.
And here's a plug for your column. I put a graphic to your shameless plug. There it is.
Yes,
on the screen.
Thank you, Wade.
So that's
guys.
the
Look at that. It says look at that, guys. It says my name and it says PWTorch contributor. That's my column right there.
Look at that.
Yeah,
PWTorch.com, or get the ad-free version, PWTorchVIP.com. All right. I was doing that while you were talking. I wanted to give you a graphic to go with your so-called shameless plug. You don't have to apologize for plugging your stuff. You put a lot of work into that. People should read it. You should be proud of it. Darrell, what do you think what Tej had to say?
Yes, I say that. And the best line of that whole thing came from Nick Aldis when he was talking to Solo, and he told him, "No, you're the one who's trying to do this to Jacob and trying to sabotage it."
Someone was surprised I was defending Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce last week, or maybe it was on during Raw, like advocating. I'm not against GMs in every circumstance. Like, I'm not even with all this, I'm not against a Cena heel turn in all circumstances. I just think there was a way to do Cena Cody in a compelling way, face. I think there's obviously better ways to do the Cena heel turn. I also think there's been a lot of bad GMs who have been too much grabbing the attention of viewers during shows in ways that were counterproductive. But Nick Aldis is a smart, savvy GM who is not cowering to others. He is using logic. He is picking his spots to fire back. And and Adam Pearce is very different. He's the disheveled middle management guy, just worried about getting his bonus and not being yelled at the next day. They're both very different people, and I enjoy it. But I mean, I think they are usually in a sweet spot for how involved they should be, because it's usually to forward a storyline or resolve an issue, and it does give a logic to things. You know, why? Like, I loved all this. You know, having the whole thing backfire and on. And adding a fourth person to the match with like you want the GM to be, if you're sitting at home thinking, well, what about this? And the GM says it, you're like, yes, I got somebody on my side on the show. He's thinking what I'm thinking. So yeah, it was a good week for all this, and I like that aspect of it. Anyway, my sidebar pro GM. Go ahead.
Yes, I loved it too. I loved what he said. I love how he did it. I love how he handled it. Yeah, people might probably try to criticize him, saying, well, no, this is gonna be a triple threat. Then when Solo said whatever he said, but he was like, okay, you saying this, all right. And that fed into the story of Solo really not liking what Jacob doing, even though he told Jacob to come bring the title back. That's why, like Tej said, when we get I hate you, Jacob, from Solo, he's spiking after probably going through a grueling match. And I would love to see it with the reformation of Solo's bloodline, where you bring some more people out, maybe a Bronson Reed or whoever, and they all come in on Jacob, because Jacob is such a beast, and he make you feel like we just had the argument on all social media platforms: 100 gorillas versus 100 people versus one gorilla. To me, he's like that one gorilla against 100 people, and you feel like you gonna need that to beat him, because, like you say, he's all gas, no brakes. His promo style is so different, and I like that they let him be unique. And right now, while you having the John Cena title run, you should build SmackDown around him and make it all about him, and build other things outside of that can fit in the storyline or the atmosphere that he gives off.
Completely agree. I mean, death, taxes, and bloodline drama, it always sells in WWE. We've got guys like Hikuleo that have been signed for months and still haven't made an appearance. I don't know where the tallest Tonga of them all is, but hopefully he'll show up at some point. Jacob Fatu is just absolutely incredible. Darrell, I completely agree with you. I plug this every time I talk about Jacob Fatu on these live shows, but for anyone here that hasn't seen his work in MLW, it's just like his stuff in WWE, but even more unhinged. It's insane. He reminds me of that guy completely tatted up whenever you go downtown or whatever your city you're in, that just looks like he's on like 10,000 things at once and just shattering at nothing. It's incredible. He just punches the side of like semi trucks as he's talking. But no, he has like one of the most like weirdly engaging vocal patterns of all time. I could listen to the man talk for hours, and if he was built up as like the next big villain that no one could kind of take down, that would be a great spot for the SmackDown midcard to kind of build themselves around, kind of taking down this unenviable monster.
They have a problem with Jacob Fatu being beloved by fans because he is authentic and he's cool and he's badass, and it's a challenge to get, if they want to reposition him as a heel, and if they don't, I don't know. I haven't solved the Jacob Fatu situation. I'm just observing that having a run with him as a heel against some top baby faces would have been nice before he started getting cheered so much, but they'll make money with one or the other. Derek Mitchell in the chat said Jacob Fatu is so influenced by Bay Area rap with his lingo on TV. I'll take your word for that. Darrell, any closing words from you? I want to keep rolling here.
Oh, yeah. And I always hear Wade in my mind when he started yelling. I'll be like, is he doing the Dolph Ziggler? But he plays off of it so well that he's not yelling like that, and you can understand what he means, sure, and things like that. But last thing would be this. SmackDown tag teams. Should SmackDown be the place for tag teams? They gave a celebration to the TLC match
I like
and
that.
telling them they're the new guys of tag team. You got Fraxium coming in. Should they start building more and bringing more stories for the tag teams? And SmackDown be the show for tag teams while they're at least 3 hours. And that's it for me.
Cool. Thanks, Terrell. Yeah, go ahead, Tej.
I was going to say, I absolutely love the tag team booking in SmackDown for the past at least 6 months. At this point, it is one of the best examples of multi-faction interconnected booking. And again, I've talked about this on my column at length. You have Motor City Machine Guns, DIY, Street Profits, Los Garzas, Pretty Deadly, and a couple extraneous players here and there that all had, very unique webs of interactions with each other. And every permutation of match that between those 5 teams that was put on a given week furthered interactions and relationships across the board. It was one of the kind of most well-paced multi-man feuds and character dynamics that I've really ever seen on wrestling weekly TV, and still to this day, an absolute crime that the TLC match did not make it to WrestleMania. It earned its spot there, but with the field very much being cleared out, Los Garzas are back working with Escobar and Andrade. The Street Profits are still on top. DIY, Motor City Machine Guns are back kind of licking their wounds. Now Fraxium's here, and so is Melodone Miz to get some new blood in the division. I think that, they are very successfully building SmackDown up as the place, for tag teams to wrestle. And in the same vein of the OG SmackDown 6 and the Ruthless Aggression era, there's some leading a feud with it's just time for these wrestlers to just hoop is what gets you to success. And I think that this iteration is on its way there.
My concern, stipulating to the positives and the compelling nature of some of what they've been doing for months, it relates to what TNA did with the X Division for years, which is, well, we got a bunch of small guys who can do spots, and we're going to, on every pay-per-view, not have a one-on-one match, but put 4 of them or 6 of them or 8 of them in a ring and have a gimmick. And none of them have characters. I should say, that's overstating it, but most of them didn't have defined characters. Certainly there were, sometimes blurred lines over whether we knew enough about them to know whether we were rooting for them to win or not. So we were just cheering them for the spots, for the excitement, for the entertainment value. But in the end, we didn't feel anything other than the exhilaration of, it's like, I can watch the slam dunk competition, but I'd rather watch Game 7 in the playoffs. I can watch a highlight video of great passes and blocked shots, but I care about the scoreboard and the stakes more. So I think what you want to do is you don't want to look at what you've said is the positive of something that I think is rooted in something negative. And the negative is we don't think we can give 3 segments on a show to the men. They've gotten over that with the women now. We have multiple storylines going on with women, not as many as with the men. The roster's not as deep. But what I want to see is, okay, you did this and you had an excuse to have 3 or 4 or 5 tag teams at once on the screen. And they made the best of it by having us learn the dynamics, kind of like a Bloodline backstage scene. We know there's the Jay Heyman, there's Heyman Solo, there's Solo Reigns. Like everybody had their own dynamic going on. I want to see it settle into something more clear cut. I need to know, I want to have a feeling about the Street Profits, whether I'm rooting for them or not. And I don't know right now. I just they have an exciting team. They're kind of cool. It's nice they have a new look, but am I rooting for them or against them? Pretty Deadly. Are they charming, witty people undercutting big egoed baby heels? Or are they jerks who are interrupting promos and making snide comments where it makes you want to see them lose? And it's circumstantial. Motor City Machine Guns, yeah, they took them a long time to get here. Can we get on? Can we move on to something else? What do we know about Shelley versus Sabin? How are they different? What do they stand for now? Why am I rooting for them besides the fact that, as we hear every week, it took them 30 years to get here and they have exciting matches? So, and I could go on. So let's get some defined characters and let's get back. Let's not do the TNA X Division thing. Just throw everyone in the ring to do spots. Give me a 2-on-2 program, a 1-team versus 1-team program in hour 1. Give me a 1-team versus 1-team program that lasts 6 or 8 weeks in hour 2. And then in hour 3, plant seeds for something else. Give me multiple tag team storylines where they're not just, for years, the women, there'd be that scene where all the women were on the screen at once. They'd have to go to the wide angle because they didn't want to dedicate more than one segment to the women. So they just show all of them at once in some contrived segment. So you can make the best of it as you laid out, Tej, but I'm ready to just have a defined heel-face matchup, 2-on-2 feud. It doesn't mean that other teams can't be on TV. Give them a segment too. Cool. Darrell, appreciate the call. Let's bring Sean from Tennessee onto the show. Sean Plichto, welcome. Good to see you again. What's on your mind about SmackDown? There's a lot we haven't covered on the show because we got derailed because of Randy Orton and Backlash coming up on the whole heel John Cena saga.
Yeah.
And Orton throwing something new into it, which is adding a whole new alleged framing of why Cena turned heel and how long he's been a villain in real life. I enjoyed his perspective. It gave us a lot to talk about, but what's on your mind?
Yeah, wait. Before we start, one thing to say.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Sean.
Thank you. Well, I don't want to. I don't.
Is it your birthday or was it yesterday? Oh, it's Central Time
today.
Zone. It's May 2nd.
Yeah. 9 more minutes. 9 more minutes.
Yeah.
But
good.
I don't
good
want
job,
to ruin I don't want to ruin your streak weight of under 2 hours. I'll make it quick because I don't want to.
We got 10 minutes. You're the last caller.
Cena Cody, I could talk for a while but my main thought is Cena didn't make any sense to me last week when he talked about I was raising your kids. Like, nobody believes that they think you're raising people's kids. Like, I mean, it was dumb for Orton to ask the question, why do you, like you said, Wade, last week, like, why did Cena didn't have to have kids. I mean, that was kind of weird anyway. But then Cena's been going through the motions for me for years, and I just didn't care about this Cena retirement tour. I like Cena. I was a defender of him for a long time, but I haven't liked anything he's done in the last 5 years since he's been a part-time guy. I just haven't, and this hasn't done anything for me, and I don't think it's going to, unless Cody can come back in a good way after looking not that he looked bad for not hitting him with the title. He looked bad for not beating him up, period, just because he bought Cena's crap. We knew that he was just buying him a bunch of bull, and he fell for it like a dumb baby face. And we don't want dumb baby faces. We want smart baby faces. And Cody has been good for so long building up to these matches that now it's like, I hope they can get it back on course. And that's all I'll say about that. With Alistair Black, we haven't talked about him in a while since he's come back. So my thing is,
he looks so good tonight, Sean.
Yeah, no. Well,
he was amazing. I mean, he was like as crisp and. Anyway, I just don't want to miss out on saying that.
No, he did. Yeah. But my thought is, when he was there the first time, he just, like you've said many times, he spoke a bunch of mumbo jumbo. We had no idea where this character was going. My problem is here now, there's nothing again telling me who he is, why he's here, what he's trying to do. Mm-hmm. That's what they've got to do with this character to make it work in WWE, is like, who is this guy? Tell a logical story that we can build on. Is a face. It looks like he's a face right now. I mean, is he going to turn heel at some point? He probably will. But tell me
or is he even a face or heel in Levesque's current world? He might. Levesque might think I'm next level, so I'm not going to do faces and heels, and I want a bunch of quiet crowds watching moves. I mean, like, and we don't know. When you say mighty turn, I don't know what he is. I don't even know if he should officially be a babyface. You are if you beat up Miz, but it's like. Pretty deadly. Next week he'll be saying something mean to a babyface, and we don't know how we feel anymore.
And so my thing is too, a lot of people would probably think, it was a good match with Miz. Like, Miz has
it was good
now.
It was the best match Miz has had in a long time.
It's still too long though. Alistair Black should not be selling that much for the Miz. If Miz is going to be a tag team with Carmelo, fine, do that.
You know why Miz got to all that offense in? Because the commercial break was 3.5 minutes, and they wanted to say Black's come back for after the break. But it was a double box break, so we got to see the whole beatdown. But ideally they just would have had Black make a comeback during the commercial and broken from their rule of the heel gets all the heat until we come back, and then as soon as we're back from the commercial, somehow magically the babyface powers up.
Yeah, I just didn't like that part of it. Yeah. But my thing is, I just want to see him develop the character of who this guy is and why we should boo him or cheer him or root for him or not. Because that hurt him his first run. We didn't know. He just spoke a bunch in riddles. We didn't know who this guy was. Mm-hmm. So
it was funny because he was described that way by Joe Tessitore, and I'll get my weekly praise for Joe Tessitore, and he was fantastic again tonight. Best announcer in wrestling. Maybe ever. Oh, okay, that's premature. But he's getting a little bit better every week. He described Alistair Black before the match as a very dangerous, often mysterious, cryptic, capable superstar. I know we got WWE Speak in there with superstar, but the very dangerous, often mysterious and cryptic. I mean, but basically you're baking in to his bio. Yeah, he's cryptic. We don't always know what he's saying. And now let's build on that and let's extrapolate something that makes us feel something. The problem with Alistair Black is what we felt didn't sell tickets. It didn't motivate us to see him win or lose. It just was, oh, what was that? That's different. That's not a ticket selling response. So yeah, I'm with you, Sean. Let's define. Basically, I just want him to want a title. Like I want him to want a championship and get into it with a heel. Whoever that is. I mean, Alistair Black and Drew McIntyre could be a great feud for the U.S. title, or whatever. But let's pick something out and do it.
Yeah, I think the struggle with wrestlers that rely on lore as one of the primary definitions of their character is you really need to devote a lot of time into both backstory and making sure that internal logically everything is maintained. And that's very, very hard to do in a storytelling medium that's as interconnected and juggles as many balls in the air as professional wrestling. Because I don't know if either of you know this, there is lore that I forget Alistair's real name, I think Tom Budgeon, his shoot name, that Tom Budgeon has talked about on social media and hinted at, that Tommy End, which was his name on the indies, was just a real wrestler from the BritRes scene that was possessed by a demon that became Alistair Black. That is, in canon, the narrative behind the Alistair Black character. He even tied it in with AEW that another evil presence killed off Alistair Black and replaced him, which is where he became Malachi, but that's neither here nor there. There has to be a level of consistency when you have.
Does Elias fit in somewhere? Ezekiel and Elias, do they fit in that? Did Ezekiel come from the same place as Malachi? All right, go ahead.
Hey, there's a fan fiction that LA Knight is the forgotten third brother because they look kind of similar, which is hilarious to me.
Oh, gosh.
I don't know if my interruption was worth it, but go ahead, Tej. I derailed.
It's worth it for that tidbit. That tidbit will make it on YouTube Shorts.
You saved it. Yes, well, it's up to the AI machine.
I think that, especially given the Wyatt Six and their kind of stilted off and on treatment since their very, very strong debut, I don't exactly have high hopes that Alistair Black will be built up in a way that befits his lore. It feels like that level of his character will just kind of become window dressing to just being another mid-card guy that feels just grizzled, which is a disservice to his character, and it's kind of what undid him on the main roster among a lot of the late stage Vince McMahon booking. But it felt like a lot of his uniqueness in the ring was diminished because you also had to service his opponent. If he was fighting a babyface that was on the rise, that babyface had to get offense in, which means that Alistair Black had to look weak when Alistair Black, the character who is possessed by a demon, should not be looking weak. It's a very, very tough balance to strike, and I don't know if Alistair Black's position on the card is going to warrant WWE investing that time to find that balance.
Yeah.
My very negative thoughts.
No, but Alistair Black is a conundrum of a character. I mean, and it might need to be adjusted and tweaked and even weakened in certain respects in order to be productive and fruitful within the WWE environment.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I just, they'll give him a vignette. I mean, of course they're going to give him a vignette. We know that, but they didn't do anything with his character 5 years ago. Why do we think all of a sudden they're going to do something with it now? And that's what kind of frustrates me. It's like a lot of people were excited to have him back, and it's cool having him back, but I just think he's going to fall in the mid card and he's just have some good matches here or there, and that's just all there is with him. And that's what's sad. It's like I want this mid card to feel like you can have a mid card but still make it feel important, and they don't do that. It's just like the Cena, Cody, Orton, big, and then Alistair Black, Rusev, this guy.
Well, but not everybody. I mean, there's only so many starter minutes too, so that's part of the issue.
Well, you got to have your minutes you have.
What's that?
Make the most of the minutes you have. Make the most of them.
No, I know, but I think Alistair Black should be framed right now as an intriguing future main eventer rather than someone who's locked in on the mid card. Yeah. And so tell that story. So we're on a journey with him, but we have hope that he's going to rise above this because I think it's in him. And by the way, I think Levesque is high on him. I mean, I think Levesque wants to do something with him. And So, but it takes time. I mean, there's Levesque said it in NXT. He's like, sometimes someone gets called up ahead of someone else because he used a baseball analogy. We need a shortstop. We don't need a left fielder or a pitcher. So, the spot for Black will open up when the time is right. And hopefully it's storyboarded or plotted out. They have something in mind.
Yeah. So then going to...
You got 1 minute, Sean. We used up most of your 10 now.
I was thinking about the stuff with Chelsea. I wanted her to keep the U.S. title for a while because I like what they've done with her. Like, to me, I don't have anything against Zelina personally. I just don't think she's a champion level performer. I just don't. And so her having the U.S. title just feels like the crowd's not really into her. They're cheering her, but it's like a faint cheer. They're like, she's okay. We're fine with it. The matches she's had with Piper have been good. I just think Piper's been defined so down. I know the Secret Hervis, yes, Wade, it's fun. I'm into it. I'm into her cracking me up, but she doesn't need to lose all the time. She's been defined so down. It's been so hurtful to see what they've done with her. But
she says she's having the time of her life, and I think she's just fine. I'm not saying it's the ideal spot, but the ideal. I mean, you can say they could have done a lot more with her and not push Tiffany as hard or whatever. But I mean, I don't know. I've asked for patience with Carmelo Hayes too. Like, I think he'll be fine. Austin Theory might still end up to be fine. Who knows? But yeah, I shouldn't compare. They all are different circumstances. But I get what you're saying. Tej, what do you think about Sean's framing of Chelsea and Piper Niven?
I mean, I will play devil's advocate. I do think Zelina Vega has the makings to be a very good champion, especially with the other mid-card champ being brought into the world of Becky Lynch, of heel Becky Lynch. I think that having a babyface mid-card champion was a bit more of a necessity. As much as I love the Secret Hervis, and I absolutely do, it really felt like they had kind of reached the limit of what they could do with that idea of Chelsea Green posturing, but at the end of the day, she is a step below the rest of the mid-card when she does not have her backup. I think they built up, the Secret Hervis was gone, no more places that Chelsea could run to, and Vega finally got her due. I think that was done as well as it possibly could be. And, it left me wanting a little bit more, but I'd rather that than, them dragging out a title reign more than they need to and not building up any other contenders. I do think Zelina Vega, especially nowadays post LWO, has the makings of being a better babyface champion. She, for some reason, can do those kind of like, thank you all so much for this opportunity. I'm so grateful to be here. That style of promo, and it doesn't feel schmaltzy. It doesn't feel inauthentic. Similar to Cody Rhodes. I think if, she gets the investment, she gets those kind of town hall segments, a long in-ring promo. I think Zelina can get over on the mic a lot more than people expect her to. Not to mention, she's incredible with the clapback. She can stand on the mic against almost any heel, which is such a great asset, especially now. But
I think some wrestlers... Yeah, I think some wrestlers are on a course where they're not going to get over. I think Zelina's on a course where she might not be over, but she might get over. Like like for the reasons you're saying, Tej. Sean's facial expressions disagree. Goodfella 1422 said Piper's in it for the long haul, in my opinion. But I agree with Sean. I think she'll find her moment. Zelina has a chance. She is so likable. Don't hold Zelina to the standard of having to be main event over. It's a U.S. title. It's a secondary women's title. She's a scrappy underdog, outsized by heels, and they're telling that story. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the main event. Wait, I'm just saying for what she's doing, I think Zelina ultimately is a better heel anyway. Like, I like her as a heel.
At her size, she just can't be, unless they're going to be a manager. It's just the reality of it. You can't have someone that diminutive as a heel.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry, unless you hire a bunch of other people who are 5 feet tall.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's potential, I would have built up more to her winning the title. It just felt very out of left field, just very we're just rushing it on her.
But that was the story. Oh my God, this underdog won unexpectedly. I don't want everyone to earn their title win in the same way with a long journey. I'm okay with a surprise. Whoa. Yeah, that's right. Sean, we got to run. I'm keeping on the shoe. Thank you.
Good. That's cool.
All right, cool. Thanks. Enjoy your weekend, Sean.
All right, man. See you guys.
Take care. Yep.
Cheers, man.
All right. Thanks, Tej. We'll remind people, good chance right now to go VIP. Get the ad-free versions of these shows and unlock 35 plus years of content, nearly 2,000 back issues. Ad-free website, both on desktop and mobile. You can also get a 7-day free trial. Search PWTorch VIP in Patreon or Spotify to get a 7-day free trial of our VIP podcast only. That's not a full VIP membership with all the archives, but it's 7 days free, so you can kick the tires and see what you think. Tej, thanks as always. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, and we will talk to you next time.